It took Portia de Rossi years of standing next to an iconic figure in show business, but she has now spoken up. First of all, I can't believe we've gotten to the stage where we're holding a fundraiser. Both outsiders and insiders are stunned by her revelations. The former model and actress is speaking up more than ever after her shocking split from Ellen DeGeneres. Her remarks disprove long-held beliefs about their relationship and are incredibly forthright and honest. What was the truth behind their romance? Is it due to an extramarital affair? What gives? What secrets has she kept from us until now? When Portia finally speaks out, you won't believe what she has to say. Ally McBeal sends Portia de Rossi to an art publication. A tale of rebirth, perseverance, and discovery is Portia de Rossi's. One of Hollywood's most famous faces, Amanda Lee Rogers was born on January 31st, 1973, in Horsham, Victoria, Australia. Although getting there wasn't exactly a picnic. From her humble beginnings in Australia to her illustrious acting career and profoundly emotional battles, Portia's life story illuminates a woman who relentlessly pursued not just achievement, but also the truth and self-awareness. Her time in the limelight was never merely for the sake of stardom. Finding her niche in a world that frequently required metamorphosis was the central theme. Portia had experience with public personas and performances from an early age. She didn't merely decide to become a professional model in 1985 when she was still in her early teens. A decision to change who she was started with that. Inspired by a character in Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice and feeling that her last name conveyed an air of refinement, she formally changed her name to Portia de Rossi when she was 15 years old. The rebranding went beyond a simple name change. This presented Portia with an opportunity to write her own story, a space where she might discover her potential, free from the constraints of her childhood. She didn't break out until over a decade later, in the 1994 Australian picture Sirens, co-starring Hugh Grant and Elle Macpherson, when she made her film debut. She felt empowered to take a daring leap after the film's moderate success. She packed her bags and headed for Hollywood, leaving Australia behind. It was a bold and ambitious step that launched her career in a cutthroat field where constant innovation was not just encouraged, but frequently required. The role of Nell Porter on the popular TV show Ally McBeal, which Portia secured in 1998, was her big break. Her portrayal of the sophisticated, cold, and brilliant lawyer garnered her rave reviews, as well as an enthusiastic fan base. She was an integral member of the ensemble cast from 1998 to 2002, adding to the show's mix of serious legal drama and offbeat comedy. A career-defining moment that confirmed her skill and established her place in television's landscape was her performance being honored with the Screen Actors Guild Award. However, she was also dealing with issues in her personal life, even as her career was flourishing, especially in keeping up a facade in public that masked the inner demons she was fighting in private. Portia kept building her unique television career after Ally McBeal. She portrayed Lindsay Bluth Funk on the highly acclaimed sitcom Arrested Development from 2003 to 2006, again in 2013, and again from 2018 to 2019. She became famous for her portrayal of the narcissistic yet amusing Lindsay on the beloved cult series. As an actress, Portia de Rossi was able to display her comedic timing and explore new territory on Arrested Development, thanks to the show's strong writing and unique humor. This part solidified her image as an adaptable and charismatic actor, and it became one of her most beloved by audiences. At the same time, from 2004 to 2007, Portia delved into more dramatic and emotionally charged territory as Olivia Lord in Nip Tuck. She went on to play Veronica Palmer in the office comedy Better Off Ted, where she was able to further explore her sophisticated character work. Together, these parts showcased her versatility as an actress by allowing her to tackle stories in a variety of genres. Still, Portia's inner life was complicated, characterized by fears and struggles with self-image that had dogged her career since its inception, even as her professional renown grew. The publication of Portia's memoir, Unbearable Lightness, in May of 2010 was an audacious and introspective move on her part. She opened up about her battle with eating disorders, her terror of being publicly shamed, and the emotional toll of concealing her real identity in this honest book. The difficulties of accepting her sexuality in a public setting and the pressure to adhere to Hollywood beauty standards were topics she openly discussed in her writing. Not only did she open up about her personal struggles in the memoir, but it was also an affirmation of her ability to survive and embrace herself. It was a watershed moment in her life that touched readers all across the globe, one where she opted for honesty rather than secrecy. In honor of her marriage to Ellen DeGeneres, a comedian and TV host, Portia legally changed her name to Portia Lee James DeGeneres the same month. In a small ceremony at their Beverly Hills home, the pair tied the knot on August 16, 2008. Many saw their marriage as a step forward for LGBTQ+ representation and noted that it was one of the most prominent same-sex weddings in Hollywood history. A personal gesture, but also a reflection of their profound connection and mutual regard, was Portia's choice to formally take Ellen's last name. Another major milestone was Portia's naturalization as a U.S. citizen in September 2011. Her decision demonstrated her unwavering dedication to the life she had established in America. From her humble origins in Australia and the roots she had established, her personal ties, as well as her professional and civic identities, were affirmed by this relocation inside the American landscape. For someone who had long struggled with issues of identity, belonging, and recognition, this was a turning point, a full-circle moment of fulfillment. Another watershed moment for Portia came in 2018. She announced her retirement from performing after years of being in the spotlight. She didn't want to disappear from view, so she started an art publishing company called General Public and put all her work into it. By fusing technology with great art, the company aimed to make high-quality replicas of original artwork more accessible. Rather being a retreat, this change represented progress for Portia. She took this step toward a more peaceful and stable life so that she could be there for other artists and pursue her love in other mediums. Anorexia, accusations, and Portia's coming out. While Portia de Rossi rose to prominence and reinvented herself, she faced intense emotional struggles and was the center of public controversy along the way. In the late 90s and early aughts, while her career took off, Portia was secretly battling major health problems and identity crises. These problems were not merely a result of becoming famous. They had their origins in years of repressed emotions, cultural expectations, and times when keeping quiet was necessary for survival, but also a form of isolation. An important new dimension to her story emerged when she became candid about these events in subsequent years, one that exposed the price of success in a field that values flawlessness and despises weakness. The devastation that Portia endured as a result of her prolonged fight with eating disorders is unparalleled. At the same time that she was becoming famous and critically acclaimed on Ally McBeal, she was going through a terrible personal crisis. Anorexia and bulimia were disorders she battled, problems that escalated to a critical point while she was at the height of her television career. When Portia was at her worst, she weighed only 82 pounds. By strictly adhering to her calorie tracking regimen and exercising tremendous self-control, she allegedly managed to live on 300 calories each day. Her psychological and physiological problems were exacerbated by the pressure to seem thin for the camera and her need to conceal her sexual orientation. These illnesses had serious repercussions. Damage to Portia's interior health stretched beyond what appeared on the outside, as she would later disclose. Osteoporosis, a bone-thinning disorder commonly linked to long-term malnutrition and indications of organ damage, were scary implications of her illness that demonstrated her extreme vulnerability. Still, she kept up her professional activities during this period, carrying on with the portrayal of calm and assured personalities in media. Many people, particularly women in Hollywood, go through unseen pain in an effort to live up to false expectations, and her public persona is at odds with her private life. The lengthy path to rehabilitation, which Portia subsequently characterized in her memoir Unbearable Lightness as agonizing but necessary, began when she sought help. During the worst parts of her sickness, she was completely honest. The taboo around eating disorders, especially in the entertainment business, was broken by her decision to talk publicly about such a personal subject. She showed that even seemingly successful people can be fighting inner struggles through her sensitivity, which brought comfort and validation to many followers and readers. It was a watershed moment in her public persona as well. Formerly a reclusive character, now an outspoken supporter of mental health and body positivity. Simultaneously, Portia was also dealing with the complicated and occasionally painful reality of being a lesbian in Hollywood. She disguised her sexuality in the early 2000s because she was afraid it would hurt her career if she came out as lesbian. There was some truth to these concerns. Many in the entertainment industry were still not accepting of LGBTQ+ performers, especially women, when this happened. Even though she began a relationship with filmmaker and writer Francesca Gregorini, the shy Portia kept her fears buried deep inside her. Tabloid images of them dating appeared in 2004, essentially revealing Portia before she was prepared. Subsequent media coverage was intrusive and upsetting. Instead of making a statement, she kept working while privately dealing with the impact. By 2005, though, Portia had decided to fully come out in interviews. describing the crippling anxiety and fear that had accompanied her efforts at a secret existence. She freely said that she had always been terrified that one slip-up in judgment could ruin her career. It took bravery to come out, but the freedom was well worth it. Reclaiming her narrative was at the heart of Portia's choice, which went beyond simply disclosing her identity. She went into detail about the ways in which her mental health and relationships had suffered as a result of her secret, and she claimed that she could finally start living her genuine life after she stopped hiding. Her candor touched many in the LGBTQ+ community, particularly those who had felt the same way about rejection and fear. Even though Portia was afraid of how people might respond, she ended up finding empathy and support, demonstrating that being honest about yourself can sometimes lead to surprising kindness. She mustered up even more bravery in 2017, when the #HashMeToo campaign was gaining steam and capturing the nation's attention. Portia spoke out about the sexual harassment and assault she has experienced in the profession. During her professional audition, she said that actor Steven Seagal exposed himself to her. While meeting with Seagal for a film part, the incident happened, according to Portia. She remembered how astonished and upset she was when he unzipped his pants while they were talking. Starring in sitcoms as Ellen DeGeneres, famous for her comedic timing, relatability, and trailblazing exposure as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and queer woman in the media, Ellen DeGeneres has been a major player in American entertainment for quite some time. Ellen DeGeneres' life and work have been intricately intertwined with Portia's public persona since they were partners. In spite of this, Ellen's life narrative is one of perseverance, success, controversy, and reinvention, and it goes beyond their shared history. Her rise from the ranks of a Louisiana stand-up comic to those of a cultural icon with an international impact was fraught with the kinds of monumental moments and difficult obstacles that have shaped her legacy and the way people around the world view her today. Ellen DeGeneres found her comic voice at a young age while growing up in a middle-class family in Metairie, Louisiana. She was born on January 26, 1958. Her warm stage presence and keen observational humor made her a star in the early 1980s, when she started doing stand-up comedy at local bars. In 1986, she made her big debut on Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show. She had arrived as a national comedy sensation when Carson, thrilled with her performance, requested her to sit on the couch, a rare privilege. It launched her into the spotlight and paved the way for other possibilities in her early career, making it a watershed moment. Had made the jump from stand-up comedy to television by March 1994, when her sitcom Ellen made its network television debut. Played by DeGeneres herself, the comedy revolved around the eccentric and neurotic proprietor of a bookstore named Ellen Morgan. In 1997, when both Ellen the actress and Ellen the character came out as lesbian, the show went from a moderately popular to a cultural phenomenon. It was a first for commercial television. Time magazine featured DeGeneres' affirmation of her sexuality on the cover, and she also confirmed it on The Oprah Winfrey Show. A legendary episode known as the Puppy Episode, featuring her character, was aired shortly thereafter, and millions of people watched it. As a result of this public outing, Ellen became one of the first prominent LGBT actors in network television history. This landmark was both lauded and criticized for its audacity. A decline in viewership led to the show's cancellation in 1998. Limited employment opportunities and conservative criticism were some of the personal and professional fallouts that DeGeneres experienced. However, she maintained her resolve. Her coming out was a watershed moment for the visibility of the LGBTQ+ community in the media. Her bravery during that time not only made other people feel less isolated, but it also solidified her position as an early advocate for representation. In 2003, after a short absence from the limelight, made a strong comeback with the launch of The Ellen DeGeneres Show. The daytime discussion program shot to fame after its September 8th debut. The show's combination of comedic segments, interviews with famous people, dancing, and upbeat moments made it popular and helped restore DeGeneres' popularity. The show, which Ellen used to spread positivity, giving, and joy, received over 30 daytime Emmys during its 19 seasons, characteristics that garnered her an enormous fan base. Her famous saying, "Be kind to one another," has now become an anthem for many people. Ellen achieved numerous further professional landmarks as her impact expanded. She made history in 2007 as the first openly homosexual host of the Oscars, with an inclusive and hilarious performance. Many people were impressed by her look. Furthermore, signified yet another pivotal point in the entertainment industry's history of overcoming obstacles. By 2010, she had taken her career to the next level by developing her lifestyle brand, ED, and co-founding the record label 1111. Ellen G. McGraw. Through these endeavors, she was able to interact with her followers in ways that were not possible on television and to display her financial skills. In November 2016, President Barack Obama presented Ellen with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing her influence on culture and humanitarian causes. Considering her humble beginnings as a struggling comic, Obama's moving speech on her bravery and compassion was a testament to her progress. This was a watershed moment in her career, and it represented the country's gratitude for her efforts to break down barriers and promote tolerance. Through her 2018 Netflix show Relatable, Ellen went back to her stand-up comedy roots. This show was her first stand-up performance in 15 years. It was a delightful reminder of her comedic genius and a window into the peculiar paradoxes of her public persona, a beloved, approachable figure who had grown wildly famous and rich. The special showed a more reflective side of Ellen, complete with self-deprecating comedy and honest observations, and it was well received by viewers and reviewers alike. Nevertheless, Ellen's reputation was about to undergo a major test. The Ellen DeGeneres show's work environment was the subject of a huge scandal in 2020. Allegations of a hostile work environment, including racism, intimidation, and abuse by executive producers, were made public by multiple former employees. The controversy cast doubt on the veracity of Ellen's public persona, which revolves around inclusivity and kindness, even if she was not directly involved in all accusations. Ellen took responsibility for her lack of awareness of what was going on behind the scenes and delivered a public apology on the season premiere of the show as the story unfolded. The termination of 3 senior producers followed an internal probe. Others questioned how such a culture could have grown under Ellen's leadership, while others backed her accountability. As the controversy unfolded, the once universally adored host came under more and more scrutiny and condemnation, dramatically altering public opinion. After almost 20 years on television, The Ellen DeGeneres Show concluded in 2022, a decision made with thankfulness and contemplation, according to Ellen. Tributes abound in the last episodes. Appearances by famous people and words from the stars themselves, demonstrating the show's lasting influence in spite of the controversy surrounding it. At her farewell, she acknowledged the changes and challenges, stressing that the show may have ended, but the messages of empathy and community it fostered would endure. Scandals and aftermath that led to the cancellation of Ellen's show. Not only was Ellen's public persona scrutinized after the 2022 finale of The Ellen DeGeneres Show, but so were the more profound scandals that had dogged her in the years leading up to that point. In the wake of numerous accusations and widespread societal rejection, a brand that had previously been based on warmth and relatability started to crumble. These problems didn't stem from a single incident, but rather from a chain reaction of discoveries that cast doubt on Ellen's public persona. The discussion became more nuanced as her admirers, detractors, and former colleagues pondered her impact. Once revered by many, Ellen now represents how rapidly public opinion can change when reality and perception clash. The year 2020 was a watershed moment when numerous ex-employees of The Ellen DeGeneres Show came forward with claims of a poisonous work environment. These were not isolated incidents. Rather, they detailed a systemic racist harassment, bullying, and intimidation campaign against employees, many of whom reported feeling threatened or underappreciated on the job. Ellen was not personally implicated in any wrongdoing, but her leadership was the target of severe criticism. Many people held her accountable for the show's success, since she was the public face of the culture that flourished under her name. The allegations were all the more shocking because of the stark difference between the show's upbeat, positive vibe and the reports of dysfunction and quiet that occurred behind the scenes. A strong and rapid public response ensued. Many of Ellen's fans started to wonder if the cheerful, giving, and compassionate Ellen portrayed on television was a facade. The persistence of such an environment over such a long period of time raised many questions. Hidden or unrecognized, particularly when generosity was the very essence of the show's marketing. An internal investigation into the allegations was initiated by Warner Media in reaction to the escalating scandal. 3 top producers were fired as a result, indicating that the claims were true and that something needed to be changed. Ellen took 2 public stances on the matter. She apologized to her employees in a letter she sent out first, and pledging to execute measures to enhance the working conditions. She then began the new season with a monologue that doubled as an apology right there on the air when the show came back on. As the show's leader, she took full responsibility for the events that transpired, even though they should never have happened. Although some viewers valued the openness and courage to speak up, others thought the apology fell short. Some felt the tone was too cold and distant, and they felt it didn't do enough to validate the damage that former employees had experienced. In addition to the claims made against her in the workplace, Ellen was criticized for certain interviews with celebrities that viewers found unsettling. Many guests have spoken about how they felt embarrassed or ignored when they appeared on the show. Amidst the larger critiques of the program, these instances, which were previously viewed as uncomfortable comedic moments, were viewed in a different perspective. Resurfaced footage showed hosts putting guests on the spot, revealing private material without permission, and coercing famous people into awkward talks. These were once humorous times, but now they seem serious. They represented an imbalance of power in which the host preserved her authority at the price of her visitors' convenience. The public's increasing unease with Ellen's actions went beyond her own program. During comedian Kevin Hart's scandal with his previous homophobic statements, she stood by him and received criticism for it. After the outcry over Hart's uncovered comments caused him to step down as Oscar host, Ellen openly defended him, pleading for understanding and forgiveness. Despite her good intentions, many in the LGBTQ+ community thought that her argument downplayed the serious harm that Hart's previous remarks had caused. A discussion on Ellen's influence on discussions of inclusiveness and issues of privilege and accountability ensued. There was already a widening gap between Ellen's reputation and her behavior when another incident occurred. In 2019, at an NFL game, she was seen sitting next to former President George W. Bush. There was an instant pushback to the moment. Some have argued that Ellen's progressive identification was at odds with her relationship with a political person that is renowned for anti-LGBTQ+ policies. In response, Ellen clarified her philosophy in treating everyone kindly, regardless of their political leanings. Friendship, she said, should be valued regardless of one's differences. Some were glad for her call for togetherness, but others thought it downplayed the seriousness of Bush's political legacy, especially disadvantaged populations. It was already widely believed that Ellen was losing touch with the ideals that her brand stood for before this occurrence. After that, in 2024, she came back to stand-up comedy with a new special on Netflix. In this program, Ellen's defensiveness was on full display as she asserted that the outrage around the end of her talk show was the reason she was fired from the entertainment industry. Many thought the show failed to hold her to her word, despite its comic intentions regarding her career. The special was heavily criticized by former employees who felt it downplayed their experiences and portrayed Ellen as a helpless victim instead than a powerful and responsible individual. Despite the seriousness of the events of recent years, the humor, which was formerly humorous and approachable, suddenly appeared detached. De Rossi Portia battles publicly for Ellen DeGeneres after years of remaining silent in the face of mounting scandals. Portia de Rossi has spoken up, and her message is unmistakable. Despite the mounting public pressure on Ellen DeGeneres, Portia refuses to back down. Contrarily, she has decided to remain steadfastly by Ellen's side despite the immense criticism and assertions that are sophisticated. Stand by Ellen was the simple but powerful message that the actress shared on social media. All of our fans, we see you, she captioned the photo. Your support is much appreciated. Hashtags used to emphasize her points and punctuate her message. Hash prevents bot assaults. Ellen DeGeneres has my support. Hashing, Ellen, I am with you. Be nice to each other. Hash. Many people's reactions followed, with some expressing support and others calling for responsibility. Accusations involving the Ellen DeGeneres show are still affecting the former talk show host, and Portia has publicly defended her. The most serious ones are allegations of a poisonous work environment made by former employees. Accusations included statements of racism, acts of intimidation, and a general climate of fear. The accusations that a senior producer had engaged in sexual misconduct with some of the show's employees or that they had witnessed such behavior were much more disturbing. Critics asserted that Ellen had enabled such a culture to flourish under her leadership, even though she was not directly implicated in the misconduct. After the incident reached a critical stage, Warner Media launched an internal inquiry, which led to the firing of 3 executive producers. Ellen went back on her show and dealt with the topic directly, even though it had already begun. At the September 2020 season launch of The Ellen DeGeneres Show, she made her apologies public. Some thought the apology was insincere and didn't take complete responsibility, but others praised Ellen for recognizing the flaws, as she stated in her opening monologue. However, Ellen stressed that measures had been done to enhance the working conditions. The discussion takes on a more intimate quality as a result of Portia's decision to come up at this time. Although her post was brief, it had a profound effect. Not only was it a demonstration of support for her boyfriend, but it was also an appeal to followers to keep cheering for her despite the criticism. Reflecting the polarized public sentiment, the post garnered an overwhelming number of likes and comments. A few of fans wasted little time expressing their dissatisfaction. "This can't be real," remarked one user. "Be responsible for your actions. Assuming dozens of workers and years of false tales, it isn't fiction. Put an end to portraying her as a victim when in fact there are victims." Another said, "Don't stand by Ellen," when evidence of her mistreatment of visitors surfaced. Meanwhile, many who like Ellen and think the whole thing is overblown agreed with Portia's position. "I will defend Ellen no matter what," one supporter commented. "Not only does she never fail to make me laugh, but she is also one of my greatest sources of inspiration." The bigger discourse taking place across social media and traditional news channels reflects this tug of war between supporters and critics, where opinions are intense and boundaries are established. The relevance of Portia's post is amplified by its date. When it came to Ellen's work-related scandals, she had mostly avoided the limelight for a long time. Ally McBeal, Arrested Development, and her memoir, Unbearable Lightness, in which she openly revealed her difficulties with eating disorders and coming out as gay in Hollywood, have largely shaped her public image. Her support for appears to be based more on loyalty than on blind defense, given her history of personal struggles. Since their 2008 wedding, Portia and Ellen have maintained their status as one of the most famous same-sex couples in Hollywood. They are very supportive of each other and have frequently discussed how strong their relationship is. In previous interviews, Portia has referred to Ellen as her soulmate and acknowledged that Ellen played a significant role in her recovery from self-doubt and insecurity. Ellen has been quite reciprocative, describing Portia as her rock and a wellspring of strength. However, when faced with public scrutiny, even the most resilient partnerships can undergo tests. Their continued unity is indicated by Portia's decision to openly reiterate her support at this period. It's a sobering reminder that there are actual people with genuine relationships at the heart of every celebrity crisis. Ellen wasn't the only subject of Portia's message. Standing by the side of someone you care about, no matter how tough things get, was the theme. The criticism, however, remains. As more and more claims made by guests and former staff surfaced, Ellen's image took a major beating. Critics said that the Ellen DeGeneres show crossed boundaries or put guests in uncomfortable situations for the sake of comedy. Many visitors have complimented Ellen on her generosity and kindness, but conflicting accounts have muddied the waters. When Ellen was photographed in public with controversial personalities, the matter grew even more heated. She was the target of criticism in 2019 after being seen sitting with Bush Sr. during an NFL game. Her casual connection with Bush, according to critics, ran counter to the progressive image she had worked so hard to build. In response, Ellen stated, "As much as some people valued the gesture, others thought it skirted the more serious problems of openly supporting a politician whose policies had hurt LGBTQ+ people." Ellen made an effort to tackle the subject in her own unique manner in her 2024 Netflix special. The special's tone was slightly more self-deprecating, and she asserted that the backlash had forced her out of the entertainment industry. But some people weren't entertained. Some former employees felt the special downplayed the severity of the injury they endured and did nothing to alleviate their suffering, according to their criticisms. They saw it more as an opportunity for Ellen to rewrite the story according to her own standards than as a reckoning.